A very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to Innerview, a live talk show presented by Dutch Uncles. Today, our topic of discussion is Farmer Inside and Engineer Outside. And we have with us our guest today, Mr. Kishore. The guest today for today is Dr. Kishore Indukuri, founder and CEO, Sits Farm. Sir, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Kanan.
Thank you, sir. So now, moving on to the interview, we will start off with our first question. Today in 2021, how will you summarize the dairy farming industry? Where does it stand today?
Um, uh, so, Ka- uh, Kanan, if you look at the dairy farming itself, right? Predominantly still unorganized, but if you look at farming per se, the one good thing about dairy farming is that it contributes. You know, uh, I think at least 4% of the economy is from dairy farming, and this is one industry where at the current levels, I think greater than 50% of what the farmer produces actually goes, what the market value actually goes to the consumer. Maybe I got it wrong. At least greater than 50% of what the consumer pays actually goes to the farmer, if I put it correctly, right? So, and it's one of the largest agri commodities also, right? If you look at any particular sector in agri space, right, dairy is by far the largest commodity. Dairy is the largest commodity. There's a lot of scope in dairy. I mean, India, I think the demand for milk is continuously increasing. Milk and milk products is increasing. And most of the milk produced in India is consumed in the country. So there's a lot of scope for dairy to grow in India. So, Kanan, so I have a presentation as well. Should I start with the presentation and take the questions, or should we start with questions and do this thing later? How should we do this?
Sir, if it's okay, so should we start with questions and then you can share the presentation so that if any points are missed out, we can go that with it.
Sounds
Sure.
good. Sounds good. Let's do that.
Okay. All right. Sir. So the next question here is we have witnessed a dearth of youth entrepreneurs in the sector. So industries like dairy and agriculture and allied sectors are rejected or put down by the youth or well-educated class of India. So what do you think the root cause here is, and how would you suggest to cultivate their interest back in this industry?
Um, uh, so Kannan, right, this industry maybe is not as well paying as probably the IT industry is, right? Where the sector pays well, but there's a lot of satisfaction, right? The people that are connected, to this space, people that want to do it, definitely there are a lot of good opportunities in it. And I think we do now see a lot of people interested in this sector, agri and dairy space. And you can make it into a venture that still makes good money, right? When I say good money, I mean fair money, right? That you get paid fairly for it. Um, uh, 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 so I think there is a lot of scope. I think people are coming in. We will go over some aspects of it today in the presentation, that you can take up, dairy farming as a sector and still make money and still, and still live on it, right? You can produce enough income so you can survive on it and, make a respectable and decent living. Uh, um, it is like, I mean, if you're coming into it fresh, newly, there are some ropes that you have to learn, but you can definitely make it work.
Right. So, sir, when we look around the situation right now, we are surviving amidst this global pandemic, and we have in this scenario, we have seen a lot of focus being shifted to taking care of one's health. So, how do you think this traditional sector, the farming sector, agriculture sector, how do you think that is addressing the betterment of human health?
Okay. There is definitely a lot of focus on eating good food, right? Eating healthy food, consuming the right kind of foods, basically. So definitely the focus is back on, having those great sources of food, milk, any other things that go hand in hand with it, right? Definitely people are looking for a good high quality pesticide free contamination free vegetables. Similarly, dairy products. I think there is that need that I think everywhere in the country we are witnessing, and I guess everywhere in the world. Um, and, uh, that demand is definitely, I mean, it has always been there, but I think it's got spurred by pandemic also. Right, a lot more people also are coming into this field. One, because it is an essential item, and it was not disrupted as much as some of the other fields were, because still farmers and dairy producers were able to still sell these essential services. Yeah, but definitely there's a lot of focus on I think when we were staring at a pandemic so closely, right? I think the focus on what is really important for you, I think, sort of ignites in everybody. So I think there's definitely focus, and it'll continue to happen. I think there will be a lot demand for good food, produced in the country. I think luckily there is food now in the country for most of the population. I think now the focus is on how do we make that good, right? How do we make it better?
Right, right. So in the same lines, if we talk about an issue that is food contamination, that is again a serious issue that we are facing. The use of pesticides and chemicals being injected. So that is questioning the quality of food products. So as an entrepreneur, would you suggest what solution in the traditional sector can one adopt to address this? What kind of business opportunity will be there? And this can be solved also through the products or services being provided.
Right. So, so this is a question that we were also faced it, right? As a producer, right? How do you how do you evoke that trust for your consumer, right? How will the consumer believe that your milk is good or your food product is good, right? And whatever it is, whatever that is needed to to evoke that trust, we have to do that, right? For us, we use testing and primarily showcasing that to the consumer, to our customer, as a big way to make sure the customers know that our milk is pure, right? So we do a lot of testing at the farm. We also do it at consumers' homes, and pre-COVID, and hopefully after COVID, we pre-COVID we used to do a lot of farm visits, where we used to bring customers to the farm, show them how we milk a cow, how we grow our grass, how our farmers grow our grass, how we do concentrated feed at our farmer ends, at our farmer facilities, how milk that comes from our facility, our farmers facility, are tested, right? And all the series of testings that they go through, first through adulterants, first for adulterants and preservatives, all the different adulterants that can be added to milk, how we test for them, different kinds of preservatives, how we test for them, antibiotics that can be added, that can be injected in a cow, and how do we test for them. We show all these things very clearly so that the trust can be built, right? Now, similarly, any food product that you take, right? If you can develop, or there are already test techniques out there. There are already this thing out there. If you can take those things, leverage them, and show to the customer that this our food products or our milk goes through this, and that is why you can believe that our food is good, right? If you can do that, I think that is a great way to connect to a customer, and bring that trust in your product, in our products.
Right, right. So, how can the technology advancement that we have seen right now among us, so how can this technology and advancement spur the growth with and reinvent things, how things are going on in the agriculture or this traditional sector overall?
Yeah. There are a lot of interesting startups that have also come in recently. There are a lot of startups that have come in agriculture tech space, right? And that are actually addressing these very problems, right? Either usage of drones or usage of new equipment for testing. Yeah, there are multiple new technologies that are coming. Even technology for or software for the farmer to be able to take the produce to the customer. There are a lot of softwares available. So the tech is definitely coming in a big way. New techniques are also coming in. So I think if the farmer just has to go out and look and talk to people, connect with all the new enabling spaces that are there, right? Incubators, either the government incubators or private incubators that are coming up. There is technology out there. I think I think this is the right time to be in agri and agri-tech space in India and dairy tech in India. And there is a lot of stuff that is happening in the space now.
Right, right. So this has also been there is a perception that this is an unorganized sector right now, and it has a lot of scope to be organized. So, alongside that, will bring a lot of opportunities also. So, can you suggest ways how this currently unorganized sector can be organized? And with that, I would also invite you to share your presentation and take this answer forward.
Sure. Yeah. Converting it from organized to organized, I think, if you look at dairy farming itself, right? I think, about 6 months ago, we had, just to give you an example, we had, the government veterinarians that came in and tagged all of our cows. There is a other system for cows now or buffaloes for your animals where they're basically connecting with all the animals at the in India, for example, right? All the animals in India or cattle in India are being brought into a network, right? So that is one step, right? So then, for example, that can be used to say give every 6 months FMD vaccination, for example, right? As an organization, we the farmers that we work with, right, are a part of a digital network, right? And every farmer and their information, their address, their phone number is part of our system. So we can and use that to either give them better inputs, right? Engage with them, do much more extensive services. So a lot of that stuff is happening as we speak, right? So having said that, as you adopt tech, right, as every farmer adopts tech, this happens. The unorganized will become organized, and that is happening. Um, um, so I think tech is the one that will do it ultimately. And I hope that it'll get accelerated now. Okay, I think with that, Kannan, maybe I'll start sharing my presentation, and we can take more questions as we go. I hope everybody
Sure.
can see the screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yes, this is a little bit of a story about Sid's farm with a specific focus on dairy farming. A few weeks ago, I did talk about our journey, but today I want to spend a little bit more, time on, what were our initial dairy farming experiments, what did we do, and, I want to share a little bit about dairy farming per se today. Right? So when we started, right, our initial business plan was to have an integrated farm that produces great milk and food, right, without any hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides. So our goal was the initial. I'll share our an Excel business model. So our plan was that we'll have 3 to 4 acres of land that will have sheds for animals, it'll have processing equipment, and any other land that we need we would take on lease, right? So this was a model that we built initially. And each farm will have a in-house pasteurization facility for milk and milk products. And we also wanted to see if we along with milk and milk products, we also should be growing other vegetables as well. So we were thinking of doing some map packing facility also for our vegetables. So this was our initial plan. And with a little bit of information that we knew about, I mean, we put together this business plan. This was in early 2012, right? I wanted to share this with you. I mean, not because this model is correct, but our thinking about this in those early days, right? So the idea was, I mean, we would buy 50 cows. Price for each animal was about, in those days, was about 45,000. Today the cost of each cow is about 65 to 70,000, and a buffalo probably closer to a lakh, right? And then we would write what is the investment for preparing feed for these animals, right? It is important to make sure that you grow your grass or feed before you buy your animals when you start a dairy farm, right? So this is, so how, what we would write, what is the cost for tilling an acre of land, what is the cost of seeds, initially you need to buy manure before you start your farm. So what is the cost of manure, what is the labor cost, and number of acres, right? So there is one rule of thumb here. Typically 1 acre of grass is good for five animals, right? I think there is a typo here. 1 acre of grass is good for 5 animals, right? Here we took, I mean, you can push it to about 7 to 8 animals also, but a conservative number is, if you grow grass in about an acre, it is sufficient for 5 animals throughout the year, right? And then if you invest in a small feed cutter, that would cost you about 60,000 rupees. The numbers would be slightly higher now. And then, if there were bore wells existing, then you need to repair it. Otherwise, you need to get new bore wells. And what is the infrastructure per animal also we would calculate. The reason we did this calculation is, typically when you buy cows, right, you think you just buy 50 cows and you calculate that would cost you about, 10 cows would cost you 5 lakhs. 50 cows will cost you 25 lakhs. But, but there's all the other costs also, all the infra cost, right? So you should essentially, one good way to look at it is, what is your investment per animal, right? What is the investment for getting feed? What is the investment per animal for getting the infrastructure, right? For if you have to house a cow, you have to build infrastructure for it, right? Here we said square feet required per animal is 10 feet by 4 feet. That is about 40 square feet you need, right? And we put in approximate cost of constructing a shed. And if you do all this, right, what we were, what our initial models showed us was, for every animal, if you look at all the investments that you have to do, it is double the cost of just animal itself, right? So if you look at it here, it shows it's about 98,000 rupees, right? When the animal cost was about 45,000 here. So this is the capital expenditure model that we prepared. And then next comes the operating expenses. What does it cost to operate your farm, right? The primary thing is feed cost. One is the cost of growing your green fodder. Then the next important thing is concentrated feed. Again, these are older numbers. When we started a dairy, our concentrated feed was at 14 rupees per kg. Today it's more like here down south it is between 22 to 25 rupees per kg, 20 to 25 rupees per kg on average. And we put here, we put 6 kgs per animal. Typically the formula here is, for every milk giving animal, you say 1 kg is needed for body weight, and about half of the milk yield, right? If a cow is giving, or a buffalo is giving 10 liters of milk, so 5 kgs of dana or concentrated feed is needed, and plus 1 kg for maintaining its body weight. So about 6 kgs of feed is needed for a cow or a buffalo that is producing 10 liters of milk a day. So you give half of that in the morning and half of that in the evening, right? So this is the bare bones model that we put together. Obviously, if you're looking at bigger the concepts like TMR and stuff like that, we did not do those exercises when we started our dairy farm. Back then, we did not look at those the advanced concepts of dairying. We just prepared a simple model, and we started executing to that. And we said, what would be the feed cost? What is the breeding cost? We said per year, if 2000 per animal is it okay? And yeah, and that is what we put here. Then veterinary costs, we put a very low number here. The costs are obviously higher than this, right? Then we put an insurance value. I mean, we said about 4%. Today, I think it's about 5%, roughly about 5%. Then all the labor costs, right? And electricity and diesel, land lease if you're taking a land on lease, and then any salaries and other overheads that you put in. Right, and when we looked at initially when we put our model together, it said there's a big operating profit here, and all the capital that you put in, you would recover in 1.3 years, right? But this was definitely not the case when we started, right? It took us a lot more money, a lot more time, I would say, and much more recurring investments to get our dairy to a state where we were able to make money. But definitely you should start with a model that you think based on the inputs that you get. You should start with the business model and continuously test it and see whether your model is working correctly or not, right? I mean, in a short span of time, we knew that there were holes in this model. This model was not working out for us, right? If there are any questions, I can take questions. Otherwise, I'll continue with the presentation now.
So I guess we can take questions after 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay. So this was our first farm in Hyderabad. We started with a leased facility. We took about a 24-acre farm where we got our first set of 20 cows. We built sheds at a very low cost. I mean, we did not put in a whole lot of money into building sheds. We actually used silk pollen to build our first sheds. The sheds were still comfortable, but we made sure that we were not putting a whole lot of money initially. We were not burning a whole lot of money in the initial phase itself. Right? And as we started, right, I mean, that's when I really understood what dairy farming was, right? Dairy farming is, it's different from specifically from agriculture here, where this is 365 days in a year, right? Cows have to be milked 2 times a day, every day, no matter what, right? I know when you write it on paper, it still feels like yeah, we understand it, but when you live it every day, right, this is different, right? There are no breaks here. People who have been in this field, right, they know this, right? They can't attend marriages, they can't all the things that you think are important, right? Sometimes you have to forego, right? This is something that you have to be prepared, at least in the first few years, right? I'm saying if you are a dairy farmer, you can't do anything else, no, but at least still you're figuring out this business. It is important to be able to be there, right? Just so that you're able to solve all issues. You cannot expect every weekend that you can take a holiday, at least in the initial first 2 years, right? There are you need to be constantly engaged with labor to make sure you and them are on the same page. You're proactively dealing with any labor issues that can crop up, and obviously productivity, right? It is very easy. It is really easy for the milk to go down, milk productivity to go down, but it takes at least 15 days for the milk productivity to go back up, right? If suppose, for example, a cow gets affected by, say, mastitis, right? The milk drop happens very quickly, but it takes a sweet 15 days to a month for the milk productivity to come back up, right? So your animals are giving milk for you for 6 months, but in that, if you lose a month of productivity, right, there are big losses there, right? These are things that you miss in your business model, and that you have to be careful about, right? That you don't lose. You're taking good care of your animal health, and you're not losing productivity. So any drop in milk yield is an indicator that the cow might potentially be having some problem, right? So it's best to treat it early on, right, before it becomes into a major problem, right? And then you also have to figure out After a few months, your animals start to dry off slowly. So you have to make sure that you're aware of the lactation cycles. And another big important thing that you should focus on: what rate are you able to sell the milk at, right? When we were in 2012, when we put up our dairy farm, first 6 months we were getting very low rate if you were selling our milk in bulk. So we figured that we have to market and sell our on milk on our own. If you're able to do that, right? If you are able to sell milk on your own, that is definitely better. Because you can get much more money for your milk than when you're selling it in bulk, right? And we took each step at a time. 2013, we started selling milk direct to our customers. Right? We would milk our cows, start at us 4 a.m. in the morning. We would manually packet our milk, and then we would take that milk from our farm to the city, which was about 40 kilometers away. And by 6:30 in the morning, we would have the milk reach our customers. And as demand for our milk increased, we invested in an automatic packing machine. So packing is not a problem, right? So we were able to pack it faster and faster. This we did when we reached about 300 liters of milk. So to up to 100 liters of milk, we were doing a hand packeting machine to packet our milk. Then we did a foot operated packing machine. After that, as we started seeing a little bit more demand, we invested in an automatic packing machine. Right, still have a huge logistics issue. Every day the milk has to reach by 6 a.m. in the morning. Our milking time was advancing further and further. Initially we started at 4, then we went to 3, then we went to 2 in the morning. Right, we would wake up at 2 in the morning and milk our cows. So customers would get the milk on time, and we were doing this twice. Right, we were doing this in the morning, and we were doing it in the evening as well. Right. After about 1.5 hours, 1.5 years of dairy farming, we then invested in a small chilling and a pasteurization facility at the farm. Right. So we did these things to make sure we are able to sell our milk. We are able to supply pure, good quality milk to our customers. So since the focus, is about dairy farming and able to generate money from dairy farming, right? So there are few things that we could do. Initially, our whole focus, right, is on this, right? We were primarily focused on selling milk and milk products, and that is still our primary focus today. But there are other aspects that you can also do profitably. Here, super napier is an important grass that is grown, right? So you can have some pictures of it. You can grow those, and you can sell it to other farmers. You can sell those clippings. So there is some money that you can make. There's some revenue you can make off of that. Another important aspect is you can raise good offspring, right? If you are constrained, but if you can only do if you can only do 40 or 50 cows, right? You don't have space to do more cows. You can use this. You can get into the business of selling good offsprings and heifers, right? So there is some literature available. There are techniques available here that where you can make this also into a profitable venture for yourself. Right? Then there's a whole aspect of dairy tourism. Right? You can a lot of people from the city want to spend a time in rural areas, and they want to see integrated farming. So dairy is an integral part of it. So you can make money off of dairy tourism. People are willing to spend money. Right, so you can do this as a weekend activity where you can charge a family maybe say 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees for them to come spend time at your farm and look at your venture and what you do there. Right, so that is one activity. We at Sits Farm, we sell vermicompost to our customers. We recently we started this activity of making cow dung logs. Also, these are like wooden logs that you can use for generating hot water or generating steam for your processing facility. This has also a good market if you can sell this outside as well. I mean, you can sell this to any industry for burning or fuel purposes, right? So this is something that you could do as well with cow dung, right? So there are a lot of things that you can do with cow dung and cow urine and stuff. Right now, it is So this is also one activity that can potentially generate revenue for your business, for your dairy farming business. So I tried to capture this in pictures. So this is a picture of our current farm. This is CO4 grass that was initially planted at our farm. A shaft cutter, a Sardar shaft cutter that we use. This is ajola growing activity. So we do this both at our farm as well as at our farmers, farmlands. So this preparing a pond like this costs us about 1,500 rupees. This is just a brick height, has water in it. Ajola is a water fern that has a very high protein content. It has about 30% protein in it. So up to a kg of this feed can be given to your cows or buffaloes. So thus you can reduce the cost of your concentrated feed. So this we do pretty extensively both at our farm as well as at our farmers farmlands. So this is vermicompost growing area, and have pictures of AI here. And as I said, I just want to emphasize a few things. Fodder is the most important thing. You have to make sure the land that you choose, the location of your dairy farm is also very important. So you make sure that you have good amount of water in the facility where you are starting your dairy farm, because both for your cattle for drinking as well as for growing grass, you need quite a bit of water. So water source is important. If you are closer to a river belt, you can do it at a you can do this grass growing activity at a fairly low cost. But even otherwise, water is very important. Sow grass before you buy your animals, because if you do it later, it becomes very expensive if you're buying grass from outside. You should also put up low cost protein sources, right? At our farm, we do ajola ponds. We're also growing, few tree fodders, sesbania, moringa, or munaga as they call here, Gliricidia and suabul. We grow these. We don't let them grow as large trees. We grow them as shrubs. Cut those leaves, and we also feed them to our animals. And these also can be fed to our animals as tree fodders. These are ultimately, at least some amount of concentrated feed can be replaced and can be grown locally on your farm.
So we would like to move on to Q&A session if that's okay with you.
Yeah, okay, just give me one more. I have just one more slide. I'll just finish it. This is grass clippings. We have one picture of that. Then we put in some resources for breeding. There are a lot of private organizations that help you with it. There are government resources as well. Right, I've listed a few sources. You can talk to BIOF. There is ABS Genus, WWFS, NDRI, Tropical Animal Genetics, JK Trust, and many more organizations. And to summarize, this is in brief about our business, right? We use dairy tourism. We use, we bring in a lot of customers to our farm to showcase, how we do dairy farming and how we do testing of milk. Right. So with that, I think I'll end my presentation, and I'll take questions.
Yes, so thank you so much, sir, first of all, for giving such insightful session. It was like a practical takeaways and first-hand experience in the industry. So moving ahead, we have received some questions from our audience, and we would like to take that up. The first question is, any suggestions on what methods to use for testing on or analyzing the business models regularly?
Okay. So I'm assuming that this is the dairy farming business model, right? I mean, you can, one of my suggestions is you start with a basic Excel model. That is what we started it. Continuously keep, the new numbers that you are continuously arriving at it. If you keep plugging it back in, I mean, I think it will give you a fair estimate of where you are at today, right? Compared to what your estimates were. I mean, if you keep plugging in, right? I think in a dairy farm, I think in first 6 months, there is a lot of valuable data, right? You have your first set of cows that are producing milk for you. Once those animals start to dry off, you have to bring in your next set of animals that keep your milk cycle going on, right? I think that is where that time frame is a good check, right? If you capture daily productivity data, your wet cost data, that I think will give you a decent amount of data to make sure that whether your initial business model that you started out with is working or not, right? I'm assuming that that was what the question was. That how are you testing your work? Continuously going back and looking at the data is how we do it.
Right. Thank you so much. So the next question is on the subscription model. Will a subscription model for the target consumers help the agricultural sector in the long run?
Okay, sure. Yeah, see, you start with whatever we can, right? I think when I say that, there is a lot of tech out there. Whether it is whether it's a one-time order, whether it's a subscription. Yeah, you start with giving your produce to the consumer, and eventually you'll know the pattern, right? If the customer likes your quality, he's ordering it weekly, then that becomes a subscription. Definitely, right? There are concepts where you can say every week I'll deliver a basket of produce. It can have milk in it, it can have eggs in it, it can have it can have leafy vegetables in it, it can have vegetables in it. You can create a basket and say I'll come once a week and give that, right? Or you can do it as a one-time order, right? Whatever works, whatever gives you the business, I would say start from there. And ultimately subscription is great because it will give you a very streamlined business where you are able to predict what the customer would order from you. But initially it might take a little bit of time for customers to gain the trust that you will do this on a continuous basis, that you will be able to supply it on a continuous basis.
Right. Thank you. So the next question is, what are your thoughts in adopting environmental friendly packaging options? What will be the effects on costing?
Okay. That's a great question, right? Yeah, we are continuously looking at this, right? I mean, we do get a lot of questions about this as well. So we are looking for, what are the great solutions out there that are environmentally friendly. For example, if you take the example of, packing your milk in a plastic pouch, for example, right? One of the things that we get is, why don't we do glass bottles, right? So are there technologies out there that where you can do it in biodegradable packaging options, right? So we are continuously evaluating them, but you have to look at every aspect, right? As you make this decision, it is not just about it is about the entire supply chain. When I say, for example, when we look at a plastic pouch versus glass bottle, it's not just filling stage or what the consumer would see it at the end, right? It also costs you to transport it, right? For example, if you look at our delivery boy, he could, right, probably carry a lot more milk in a plastic pouch. For example, he would be able to deliver probably 80 to 100 liters of milk when it is delivered via plastic pouches. But when you do via glass bottles, you can only deliver maybe 40 liters of milk at the most, right? So what does it, one, and how much water are you using? For example, if, for example, you use glass bottle or a stainless steel bottle, for example, then it has to be cleaned daily and then repackaged, right? How much water are you using, right? What are your costs of doing this? The entire thing has to be looked at and then arrive at a solution. Having said that, we are constantly pushing ourselves to see what is the best technology out there, we are looking for good options to take up biodegradable packaging materials once they are out there, tested and available.
Right, thank you. So, next question is, what can be the role of educational institutes which have uh, sorry, which have specialized courses in agriculture to aid agripreneurs?
Um, uh, there are, see, one thing is I'm not from an agricultural background, so I've never had formal education in agriculture. I had to sort of learn some of the things at least from books, and most recently, I mean, we were part of a incubator called Manage, which is a central government institution in here in Hyderabad. Right? There are a lot of see, definitely look out for incubators. Either in government space. There are a lot of incubators under the RKVI Raftar of Government of India. A lot of government incubators as well as private incubators. That are focused on agriculture. Right? I would say definitely look at those because those are good sources of knowledge sharing. And I think in my previous this thing also I've said that there are a lot of videos out there, of each of these. Manage has a lot of videos posted on YouTube. Definitely go look at, either some of these things to gain knowledge. I think more educational institutions take it up, great, but they're out there, and you can use those resources to definitely accelerate your learning about all the new technologies that are coming out. You can accelerate your learning using those courses. So.
Right. So we will take one more question. Uh, have you approached state government previously for incentives and for expanding your business at an all India level?
Yeah, so we've definitely applied for state government incentives. Some of the incentives we've applied for the processing side of our business. We've used incentives. We have not yet availed any incentives for the dairy farming side, because when we started, we didn't know enough about incentives and stuff. So we didn't apply for the dairy farming side, but we did. We definitely applied for incentives for the dairy processing side. We applied for state government subsidies under the TSI Pass scheme. And there are a lot of, I mean, if you, there is central government Ministry of Food Processing, there is 35% subsidy available for, dairy sector. So you can avail that. Cold storages, there are, if you are planning on setting up a cold storage, there are some incentives and subsidies available. There are grants also available. So we definitely explore as many of them because every bit of each of them helps. Like I said, we were part of an incubator for Manage. That was a central government institution where we applied for about a grant there as well. So as many as you can get, it's great because it'll help allocate money for the right things in the business.
Right. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, and we hope we have answered all the questions as well. Sir, any closing notes, any last message to the entrepreneurs or viewers out there?
Yeah. I think definitely dairy farming could be a successful venture, right? It needs a lot of personal attention, at least in the initial few years. I think if you're interested in it, definitely could be done. Definitely can be done. There are a lot of resources out there. I would say get into it, but watch your capital, how you're spending it. Make sure you're making money. You have a path for getting that money out. And if you can, definitely try sell direct to consumer, because that is how you can make sure that you're getting the right value for your produce. So definitely focus on that as well as you're doing your dairy farming. Definitely try and market it on your own if you can. If it is a possibility, definitely do that, right? And explore all the possible avenues where you can make money, right? Dairy farming, if it is done as an integrated this thing, it'll definitely yield results. Look at all the aspects. Look at marketing. How can you market your dung? You can vermicompost. How can you market your how can you do good breeding activity and raise money from that? Similarly, any grass clipping sale, dairy tourism, all of this, if you can do this as an entity, and any other ideas, right? I'm sure there are a lot out there can be done, and if you push it, I think it can definitely happen. Right? You can definitely do it.
Right. So thank you so much once again, and thank you to all the viewers for joining today. We hope you have had a lot of takeaways, and we hope to see a major overhaul in the agriculture industry in the coming decade. And thank you so much for joining once again, and see you in the next show at 4 o'clock with our another speaker. Thank you very